Hi guys, welcome to Essentially Elevated, where we're teaching you more about essential oils. To purchase your oils, you can visit our link below, mydoterra.com/essentiallyelevated. And today we're doing episode number 2 about fun facts on essential oils. So let's start with number 1. One of the earliest records of the use of plants by our ancestors that shows that they were well acquainted with the use of plants and essential oils was a recipe for a deodorant that was found in Egypt in 1500 BCE. Some of the first forms in which our ancestors used plants in their oils was for medicinal purposes, to make ointments, to make creams, to make healing beverages, whatnot. Then there was also for culinary use, for to work as seasoning, to amplify the components of certain foods. I suppose that when you first touched the earth, some things were not that pleasant to eat by themselves. So I guess that's when it started, this whole concept of learning to season your food, right? To make it more edible. Not to mention, that some oils or some condiments or whatever, they have these digestive properties. For example, turmeric, that's why it's used so much in food. It's because it also gives the food that digestibility component. They were also used for religious rites a lot. Most of the older cultures, they used to have their priests and their leaders and their shamans in a very respected place. Those were the ones that performed most of those religious rites, where there was obviously a lot of use of essential oils for diverse purposes. And then they were also used for cosmetic purposes, in the sense of like the deodorant or creams to treat things. Or of course it was not as elaborate as we do today, but nonetheless they also started having these concepts of what was cleanliness or what was protection. And some of the main oils that were used, for example, in Egypt as insect repellents were sandalwood, myrrh, and frankincense. Now in Egypt there was also the use of blue lotus or blue lily, which was heavily used in the mummification process, which consisted of basically preserving the body with wraps, jewels, oils, ointments, as to prepare it for the afterlife. This was a process that was called embalming, which we kind of know it today when they dress up the dead, but they just put makeup and other things. Well, back then it was all about preserving the eternal youth. And this is a super fun fact, is that the reason why they used oils in the mummies was because they believed that the oils created a connection between the humans and the gods. And another fun fact is that the gods were associated with the sweeter scents. And even more fun yet is that, it was shown that in almost every sanctuary there was some kind of perfume producing unit. So those were probably some of the earlier forms of try to attempt to have a diffuser or a way to distribute the oils throughout an extended period of time, which nowadays we have the diffuser, the electric one, or we even have these little incense sticks, right? Holders. This is all a way to distribute the fragrance, the scent, the benefits throughout an environment. Now when it came to the distillation process, of course they weren't as elaborate as we are today. So it is believed that our ancestors used more primitive ways of distilling their oils or extracting them. Most of them had to do with just burning. Probably the earliest forms of incense was that. They did it by burning resins and aromatic woods and just allowing that fire, that scented fire, to be distributed in the air, right? And then another way they did it was to let it seep, with the components of maybe other flowers and woods and, leaves and all these kind of concoctions, and to let those simmer there for a while and then bottle them in containers where they could actually preserve for later use. Another early use of oils in plants was in Ayurvedic medicine, which is Indian medicine that's called the science of life, and it's a very well-rounded approach where they don't see health as a separate component where it's just, addressing the body or just the mind. It's a very, three-dimensional kind of way of approaching life as to get wellness. So it consists of not only body work like massage, also herbal supplementing, and nutrition, and taking into account all the different factors to balance what they call the doshas, or elements within you, which are at different proportions at every different body. So some of the earlier uses of these oils were lemongrass, patchouli, jasmine, fennel, clove, and turmeric, all for the purpose of healing the body and restoring that balance within, and they used them both topically and aromatically. Even in ancient China, there's also this record of herbal-based treatments that was used for the purpose of maintaining good health, which was at the core of how the traditional Chinese medicine was founded. And then in Greece, we have the master doctor, physician, Hippocrates, who spent a lot of his life just studying essential oils and thriving about it and making it known. Another great reference that you can check on your own is the reference of essential oils in sacred texts like the Bible. You know, frankincense and myrrh were considered gifts. Not only that, there was also a reference to anointing oil, which was a very special oil that was used for religious rites and also for healing. And it was very, very popular among the royals. Now, before we had the steam distillation process as we know it today, there was this very important pioneer who made it the popular thing that it is, and it started with effectively extracting essential oil. Most prominently, he was successful at extracting the essence of the rose. You know, so this was a Persian called Avicenna, and this made a very popular current of the use of rose water and essential oil throughout Arabia. By the way, rose water is an amazing natural tonic for your skin. So, you know, when you don't have a toner in hand, just make sure you have at least a bottle of rose water. Now, stepping a little bit closer to our side of the globe, our Native Americans were also known for using essential oils. Most prominently, echinacea for headaches, they used horsemint for body aches, and they used white pine to treat colds. And wait, because I got to read this one because I'm not going to be able to remember. So during the bubonic plague, they also used a mixture of essential oils that include the following: meadowsweet, camphor, rosemary, lavender, and frankincense. They used this mixture to cleanse the streets, and they believe that they also cleanse the environment from the evil spirits that brought upon the plague. So it's very interesting that they considered essential oils not only functional and effective at treating certain things, but there was also these religious beliefs attached to them, which were, you know, about protection and balancing. And nowadays we know that some essential oils actually help you balance emotions and cleanse yourself. The grounding blend is very great to keep you, you know, from that fleeting energy when you're feeling like you're all over the place. So we obviously know that for these reasons, they have other components than just being something that smells good, something that works. There's also like a spiritual component, very much like the Egyptians thought, where they connect you to something bigger than yourself. Like energetically, they help you regulate certain things. So I don't know, maybe you want to use frankincense to banish evil spirits from your home. Right? So that's why there's also frankincense in the form of incense that helps you cleanse like negative energies in your environment, in your home. So with this whole like popularization of the steam distillation process, well, we can see that that was a great influence in the perfume industry as we know it today, you know, because that was the basis of how to extract fragrance, how to mix things, it was the chemical process of making two components work together. Although perfumes have a little bit more toxic components and synthetics and other things, it was definitely like the basis via which they learned how to do another product out of something that was probably not functional by itself. It's very much like the pizza, you know? The pizza, of course, didn't start like the pizza. There had to be kind of like an exploration with what dough was itself, right? With the first forms of bread, and then somebody thought, maybe we can make a flatter bread. Maybe we can make it like a panini. We'll call it a panini. And this is how all the great creations have come about. It's because someone thinks outside of the box and says, what if I could transform this into something else? And this is why creativity leads not only to progress when it comes to solving day-to-day problems, and it also leads to innovation in a sense, right? You know, and think about that our ancestors had way less resources than we did, but they had this strong connection to the earth. into the properties of it. So I think that's why they were very intuitive, right? They were like survival species. Not that we're not, we just have other resources to prolong our lifespans and other kinds of things. So that's a little taste of how our ancestors viewed the use of essential oils. It was something sacred, it was something medicinal, it was something that was very necessary in the day-to-day, and it was also associated with, you know, wellness and riches and prosperity in a sense, because like I said, most of the oils were used either by priests or they were, you know, it's like you had to have a certain authority to make use of them in these like clans or civilizations that were so ancient. There had to be like the key holder. So that's what I think is the most amazing thing about it. It's like, you know, there was these holders of that wisdom. And last but not least, for our last fun fact of this video, I want to share with you how the essential oil of lavender became popular to treat burns. And it was actually because this French chemist, which I don't want to pronounce the name incorrect, so I'm just going to leave it down here, the name, so you can Google him. He was actually doing experiments in his lab, and he happened to burn himself. And I don't know why, it was probably one of those light bulb moments where he thought about putting lavender essential oil on the burn, and he saw that it healed very effectively. So this led to a great fascination when it came to what he called aromatherapy, and he spent most of his life researching and documenting that in his book called Aromatically that he published in 1937. And what was significant about that book was that it was not only a recollection of all the medicinal uses of essential oils, but that it also helped give them another level of credibility in the modern world where people would actually go to natural resources to get their healing. So that was our wrap up for our fun facts of today. And I also want to recommend you this amazing movie that's called The Perfume. And it is based on this novel that was written by a German author. And it has a little bit of a twist. It is a little bit of a thriller. But what's fascinating about it is that it's the whole world of perfumes and distillation. So if you're into essential oils, definitely recommend. And I'm going to put the link below here in a little inside the video, so you can check it out on YouTube or whatever. And it's this, you know, very interesting thing about this kid that's abandoned in a fish market after he's born, and he doesn't have scent. He realizes very early that people run away from him because he doesn't expel any kind of scent. So he spends most of his life creating this imaginary world within him that's very luscious, and then at the same time desperately seeking to smell like something. I'm not going to tell you how he goes about to do that, but it has to do with making perfumes and essences of the human essence. So it's a very interesting, I mean, it shows you what this whole concoction process looks like, and that's what's fun about it. It's like he has this little atelier of making potions, right? Because at the end of the day, it's someone that just wants to be loved, and he thinks that if he doesn't give out some kind of scent, then people are just going to think that he's a freak. So, I mean, the bottom line is that he's looking to be loved. So that's another thing. It's like, you know, we know that essential oils can evoke feelings. You know, there's a lot of blends that are specifically for that, like the passion blend, like the cheer blend. Even wild orange is great to uplift the spirits. So, you know, it's interesting how there is this emotional connotation with smell. You know, even like, that's another fun fact that has nothing to do with this, but I want you to hear it. So, you know, I don't know what your beliefs are, but it is said that, for example, with spring allergies, because we have cellular memory of trauma, that some of the people that have spring allergies can be because they broke up during the spring, you know, or they had a huge loss during that time. So now their body has created this defense mechanism where they actually just have an emotional reaction to that time of the year always, because there's this unprocessed grief from that time. So it's amazing how our body can just have these little anchors of different states of mind because, you know, we weren't aware that it was so impactful in our lives, a certain scenario. So that's a little tip on spring allergies. So you got to go back there and say, what happened to me? during spring that I don't have good memories about. Or, you know, with your birthday, people that get sick on their birthday, it's because maybe one of their birthdays, their father left, or, you know, they lost an important job or something like that. Our body is constantly reacting. And this is why with the use of essential oils, we can stay balanced, because we're kind of bringing those etheric components, energetic components that we may not be aware of how to deal with them, but the essential oils have the purpose of helping us align with those aspects that make us whole. So that's enough for now. I will see you next time. Please subscribe to our channel to get more updates. Just hit the bell thingy so you get the actual notifications. And, you know, again, to purchase your essential oils, just look at our description below, and we will see you next time. Toodles!